Hey, good morning. This presentation explores some of the key policies on which the MSFD relies, with the aim to identify some barriers, threats and opportunities they pose for the achievement of good environmental status. And we'll also look at some of the recommendations for overcoming these barriers. So the existing legal instruments aim to protect the sea from a specific impact. However, these are usually sectoral, fragmented and spatially limited. The MSFD requires member states to achieve GES by 2020 by using these 11 descriptors. So we can look at the amount of legislation that's actually in the marine environment at the moment by using this Venn-diagram. Apologies for people that have seen it before. And it illustrates the amount of marine legislation that's actually already in use out there. However, some of these policies are only sectoral and target specific pressures, whereas the MSFD is the most encompassing directive when dealing with the protection of the marine environment, and it builds on policies at international and the European levels. However, the MSFD has not been without its criticisms. Its nature as a framework directive, vague wording, leading to different interpretations, combining individual descriptors, tight timelines for implementation, transboundary issues, and also a lack of common interpretation. So Article 13 of the directive requests member states to develop programmes and measures by 2015, and this should use existing EU policy to ensure consistency and compatibility, suitable measures from national legislation, or where necessary propose new measures, which should be cost effective and also technically feasible. So the effectiveness of the MSFD needs to be related directly to the success of other EU legislation. These policies are named here, and the directive needs these to be incorporated within their programme of measures. However, a number of difficulties have been identified when relying on these existing measures. So taking the WFD, for example, the similarities and overlaps exist between the MSFD and the WFD. A lot of the measures of the WFD can be used for the MSFD within the 1 nautical mile overlap, where the WFD takes priority over the MSFD. However, some descriptors are not covered by the WFD, and these require new measures, for example, litter and noise. Full implementation of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive is seen as a prerequisite for meeting objectives of both the MSFD and the WFD, with the targets helping to achieve GES under descriptors 5 and 8. However, the implementation of this directive is far from complete or comprehensive throughout Europe, and there are also questions of its effectiveness in the wider marine environment. The Natura 2000 directives can help achieve targets linked to descriptors 1, 4 and 6, and although they play a significant role, there's still significant gaps in the network and time lag barriers. NPAs provide provide protection from direct pressures, but they're still open to diffuse pressures. The reformed CFP contributes to achieving descriptor 3, as we've heard earlier, in the form of maximum sustainable yield, but there are still current difficulties in estimating MSY. There's been little joint efforts to define data collection and the definition of similar marine regions. Also, time lags of the directives being adopted at different times. Significant tensions have been reported between blue growth and the Marine Spatial Planning Directive. These include the promotion of blue growth, which could be to the detriment of GES, cumulative and transboundary impacts which are poorly understood, time lag barriers, and also a joint effort between the directives to identify maritime activities. This figure shows the scope of some of the current EU legislation, or the spatial anomalies between the directives. There are issues between the directives using different geographical regions, and this may be related to the MSD in relation to the WFD, the CFP, Marine Spatial Planning Directive. And these spatial scales also determine the directive's assessment criteria. MSFD requires GES to be achieved at relevant subregions, whereas the WFD requires it at coastal water bodies. And there could be marine areas that fail GES but still attain favourable conservation status under the Habitats Directive. So each directive addresses a specific problem, and it has its own timelines and it works to its own baselines. But this can cause anomalies when the MSFD relies on these to achieve GES. As I say, all these directives are working from different baselines, but they're working to different rules. But they are aiming to achieve the same thing, a win and protection of the marine environment. So existing EU instruments and national legislation form a good platform for the development and implementation of programme and measures. It makes sense not to start afresh and not to reinvent the wheel when current measures are working and are successful. So meeting the requirements of new directives is often time-consuming. However, there is still the danger of member states becoming over-reliant on using existing measures. This is based on policy timelines and geographical extent and existing measures which may not have been adequately implemented. They say hammering a square peg into a round hole is quite apt, when maybe other measures should be considered and which would be more suitable in the context. Therefore, new measures should be considered to fill the gaps, and there should be an increase in the coordination across existing legislative instruments and between the competent authorities who implement these. And it's hoped the Devote project has helped to fill some of these gaps and address some of these measures. So how can we overcome the barriers? Existing measures should be utilised as a starting point for GES. We should emphasise coordination of our stakeholders to cover time lags between directives or proposed directives, encourage member states to systematically use standards that are already minimum requirements, but not to be over-reliant on existing measures where something else may be more suitable. So very quickly review barriers and opportunities of existing legislation. EU policy does provide a good platform for measures. However, the over-reliance and shoehorning of measures to make ends meet could be to the detriment of the marine environment. And to date, only 14 of the 23 member states to apply the MSFD have submitted their programme measures to the Commission. So my thanks goes to my diverse colleagues and work history upon which this work has been, presentation has been based, and also to the lovely ladies and Mike who co-authored the paper.